right. Well, tonight we're going just north of Tennessee, which is usually where our episodes lie lately. Tennessee and Minnesota, nothing in between. Tonight we're going to southern Kentucky, just to the left of Bowling Green, where John Prine's grandma went to high school. Or grandma was a teacher, went to school in Bowling Green. Yep, that was right. John Prime. Little folk music trivia for you. Welcome back to the Caffeinated Cryptid podcast. I'm your host, Bobby Dizzle. Just a reminder to subscribe, and this is my 100th official episode. Like I was telling Mr. Suter earlier, it may not be my 100th total because I think I took a lot out when I first started doing them. I was making trash, but officially 100. So yeah, balloons, whatnot. Woo! I got some koozies. We can float some koozies up as balloons. But yeah, just subscribe, share. 100 episodes. Tonight we're going to talk about the Hopkinsville Goblin, or the Little Green Men of Kelly, Kentucky. And we got Mr. Rebel Suter. How you doing, buddy?
Doing good, buddy. How are you?
Pretty good. We talked in the before that. I'm going to remove this from the studio so I don't accidentally click on that video file. And yeah, so you are a paranormal investigator, and your passion right now is the Hopkinsville Goblin. Tell us about the tell me the history of the Hopkinsville Goblin for those that don't know, because it's well known, but it's like one of those like 1.A. You know, everybody everybody knows it, but you got to be just a little bit involved with cryptids to know exactly what happened with it.
Right. Well, in the 1950s in Christian County, Kentucky, here, Hopkinsville, Kelly's like a unincorporated part of Christian County. Family said that in the middle of the night that their home was attacked by these, what they described as little green men. One of the guys described them as monkeys in silver suits. And on top of the roof, they were looking in the windows, you know, just all over the house or whatever. So the men of the family started firing guns at them, tried to fight them off, or this went on for hours or whatever. Finally, they got out of the house. They went down the road. I don't think they had a telephone. They went down the road, got to a telephone, called the police. The police got in contact with Fort Campbell, which were close to Fort Campbell, Kentucky. The Army and the Air Force came out and investigated and everything. I don't think they actually really found anything or whatever, but that's been the local legend ever since.
Was this on the was this one of the Project Blue Book cases? I can't remember. There was one.
I don't know. I honestly, I'm not sure. It might be.
There was one he said was an owl, and I keep thinking that was the Hopkinsville one, but I don't think it was. Somebody's probably slapping the screen right now, reminding me it wasn't that one. I think that was in Ohio.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember the monkeys in monkeys in silver suits, and shooting at them, and everybody just gathering around. Did they ever, they never find anything? They never found a body? They never found blood?
No, like no physical evidence at all. It was just like the bird of the family.
Mm-hmm. That's wild. They probably, like I always say, it's either somebody cheating on their wife or a moonshine steal.
Yeah,
it's
some of the things
family
credit it. You know, they were saying that alcohol involved or whatever, but I don't know.
I feel like it's like a cop that pulls over Willie Nelson is like blaming alcohol being involved in Kentucky in the 50s.
Yeah.
Well, of course alcohol was involved. It was Southern Kentucky in the 50s. What'd you want us to do? Bear this? You want us to raw dog reality?
That's true.
Our lungs are black.
That's true.
I've been obsessed with that song here lately, Oliver Anthony.
Oh yeah.
Talking about that good old country dust.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. So what was your so you had what are the theories, the mainstream theories on it before we get to that? You had alternate theories. I want to hear what the main theories were.
Well, the main thing is, like I said, it was extraterrestrial,
of course.
Some type of little gray aliens or whatever. But I have the alternate theory because a friend of mine told me a story that him and his buddies went to their other friend who was going through a divorce or something. He lived in the Ozark Mountains, and he was going through a tough time. So they went up there to have a guys' weekend with their buddy, And
Mm-hmm.
again, they said they were doing some drinking or partying, whatever. And this telling them that this whole
Why
time
not?
that these little creatures or whatever were harassing him, like, bothering him and getting into his stuff or whatever. And they thought he was just kind of going crazy, after wife or whatever. So that they were hanging out for the weekend or whatever in the mountains. And then they ended up experiencing this stuff. They saw these little creatures or whatever that this guy was talking about. Said that they took things out of his house, that they'd wake up in the morning and stuff out of the house would be out in the yard, like arranged in little patterns and whatnot, like silverware, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy described them when I was talking to him. I was like, well, what did these things look like? And he was like, man, the best way I could describe it is they looked like little shaved chimps. He's like, they look like little naked monkeys. And I was like, after that, I said, well, we got this, legend around here about these goblins. And that's the way I described them, was they looked like little monkeys and wearing silver suits. And then I asked him about, did they make any kind of noise or anything like that? Because he said that he saw them like burrow in the ground too. And I asked him, did they make any kind of noise? And he was like, yeah, like a weird, like a drumming sound. And, there's a Cherokee Indian legend about the little people and they're drumming or whatever. So I don't know if these people in Hopkinsville really did see what they claimed to see. I think it was along the lines of whatever those little things are, the shaved monkeys.
Yeah, that's a big bullet point there. Is they both said shaved monkeys.
Yeah, it was crazy. Like that came out of nowhere. Like that dude, he had no idea. I mean, he's just like an internet friend, whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, when he said that, and I was like, whoa, that's two together. But yeah, that's my theory on it. I think it's more along those lines than it is little gray aliens, personally.
Now, were there ever any ships seen at the Hopkinsville one? For some reason, I remember somebody saying they saw a ship there.
I don't think there was any kind of sighting of any kind of
Mm-hmm.
craft or lights or anything like that. They just saw these things like peeking in the window. They were in the trees, on the roof. They could hear things running on the roof, stuff like that. I don't think there was any kind of like close encounter stuff going on.
Okay. So it could have been a no shit, like cryptid Bigfoot style kind of thing that they saw, just different variety.
Yeah,
popping in and out.
Like portals.
Yeah, that makes sense, especially with the since it's like one of the same things they saw over there in Mizzou.
Yeah.
And for all we know, there could be aliens, just the way they travel, be the same kind of species.
Exactly.
So where are you at on the Bigfoot thing? You like the portal theory?
I think so.
I really like it.
I don't think it's some natural, I've been deer hunting and stuff my whole life, and I know how things go in the woods. If there was something like that, you'd find bones, a dead one. There'd be some kind of physical evidence. I mean, there's no way that size could be, even in the remotest areas,
and hid forever. That's hard to think about.
Exactly.
To me, if you're one of these, like I'm a big fan of I don't even have the one time I don't have a cooler in here that says I want to believe on it. I'm one of these guys that has the I want to believe sticker on this truck. And if you're one of those, and I just do it recreationally, kind of here because I like hearing the stories and kickback. But if you're one of those guys that go in the woods and go to conventions, and I want to believe, and that's what I do. Well, I think them being, paranormal adjacent, they can clip in and out.
Right.
They can mess with a camera. They can drain a battery. I think that makes them more realistic. I mean, you really have to accept the whole paranormal thing, but
yeah,
if you're over here thinking Bigfoot's real, paranormal's not that far away. That's like next exit.
Exactly.
That's like the Buc-ee's coming up on the right.
I've personally never had any, sightings or anything like that.
Me neither.
I've had I was out hunting arrowheads one time in a creek, and all of a sudden, when you get the feeling something's watching you or whatever, somebody's staring at you. And I mean, I had a real weird experience like that, but I mean, I didn't see other than that. It was just weird.
Yeah, I mean, out there, I know in the woods when you're by yourself just doing random stuff, you'll feel that a lot
Yeah, I mean
for
that
no
was
reason. Yeah.
that area. I mean, normally, I mean, I go to that place all the time, and that's kind of my like little hangout. But I had never experienced anything like that. I was getting ready to make a cup of coffee or something, and all of a sudden, I just had this like most god awful feeling that somebody was staring at me or
Ooh.
whatever. I was being watched or whatever. It was a real unnerving feeling that I'd never felt in that area. But I mean, the interstate's close by, whatever. I mean, it might have been some hobo and
Yeah.
off staring at me,
Yeah.
or who
Yeah.
knows?
Best case scenario, it was a Bigfoot for you.
Yeah,
That close to. It could have been that girl from Birmingham that took off and walking through the woods for 3 days about 2 months ago.
yeah,
Carly
yeah,
Russell.
yeah, exactly.
What's um if you're arrowhead hunting, so you're near a creek, obviously.
Hmm.
Um, that's I mean it could have been. I mean that's like that's step one for Bigfoot sightings is near a creek,
Yeah,
a regular body of water.
right.
So
Yeah,
you never know.
I'm a follower of Dave Politis. I try to keep up with all the irregularities and all
Hmm.
this. So,
I think if you watch 411, all three of them,
hmm.
and then you take it Skinwalker Ranch, you can about figure out what the MO is for that kind of entity, be it extraterrestrial or Bigfoot. Like whatever they're doing stuff like that. I don't know how, I don't know why, and it may all just be a big opium trip that they just put in the air. The government puts in the air, but whatever it's doing, those Pilates and Travis Taylor are showing us how. We just don't know. Just got to put them together.
Yeah, Skinwalker Ranch is some
Hmm.
crazy. There's some crazy stuff going on around there.
They just see those UAPs. Like there's a UAP.
Yeah, I mean, like, and the cattle mutilations and stuff. So a lot
Hmm.
of that. There's some wild stuff with that, and they're
I think all of those are military.
there. Yeah,
I think all the cattle mutilations. I think every one of them's military.
I wouldn't
I
doubt
think
it.
it's knocking at my door. Oh, it is too damn late for us to get a Ring doorbell notification. But yeah,
Yeah,
you think about that kind of stuff, and I've heard that if you get near a creek and you find an area, mountains come down in hollers like fingers.
yeah,
They say if you get down into one of those where the any possible Bigfoot have a way to get atop you to get a good advantage point and get down there and camp in there, that's when you'll have the sightings.
Well, where I was talking about, there actually is like a really tall limestone bluff
Mm-hmm.
above where I was at.
You might have been pissing something off. You never know.
Yeah, you don't know. I mean, Indian spirits, whatever. I mean, a lot of people,
Yeah.
try to romanticize that a lot, but I don't know. I've seen some things out there. I mean, there was an Indian camp there, so I mean, I'm sure where you live, people died. I'm sure there are graves and everything else there too. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I've seen some, kind of unusual stuff here and there out there. But nothing negative feeling. It was all kind of positive. But I didn't. A lot of people, put way too much mysticism into that. They go out there and do offerings and burn
Yeah.
tobacco and all that kind of stuff. I always, you find something cool, whatever, you kind of give thanks to whoever made it or whatever, kind of, in your head or whatever, and keep on trucking. But yeah, I mean, I've seen, in that same area, like I said, I've had a couple, other experiences or whatever, but it was all very positive, other than the whole creepy feeling like somebody was watching me deal.
Yeah. Sneaks
Because I
up
was
on you.
there's also like a whirlpool in that creek right there in that same where this happened at. I know there's a lot of theories and stuff about vortex and all that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't
So
know.
creek must be deep then.
Yeah,
I was gonna say, was it blue like that?
yeah. It's
Aqua blue right there.
called Spring Creek. Is what there's all kind of like little blue holes all through it.
Cave
And that's
systems. That.
where I got the name, the Spring Creek archaeology thing from that.
Oh,
Yeah,
hang on. I guess you can see that. I was gonna say, yeah, Mr. Greg Van Zant. You know him? Is that one of your
yeah,
friends?
yes,
Okay. I was gonna say usually if I see like a name I don't know, it's the guest friend. So it's like some weirdo chimed in here. Said said maybe someone else at seen something will call in and tell what they've seen. Well, if you're in the chat and you have a cool story, I'll tell it if you type it up.
Well, he's
That's
actually.
just
I told you about what happened at the Land
oh,
Between. He's actually one of the guys it happened to.
okay, Greg, you call in. That's your assignment to come on here and talk about Land Between the Lakes. Because I'd like to hear more. Because isn't that up there supposed to be a dog man?
Yes,
That's what they're saying.
Yeah, that's the theory behind the beast LBL, the
Yeah.
dog man, werewolf. Which you mentioned the military, and I think if there is something like that, I think it's like a military super soldier kind of experiment thing.
There's a show on Netflix about that very thing. It's you know how the Twilight Zone does one-off shows, little stories, but it's a series. It's called I think it's called Peace, Love, and Robots, or For the Love of Robots.
Huh.
It's all computer animated, but it looks really real. But there's one about werewolves that are hired by the U.S. Marine Corps to go fight in Afghanistan.
Yeah,
it's like a 20-minute episode. It's so good.
Huh.
It's on Netflix. It's really good.
We're right here by Fort Campbell, and you know they
Mhm.
are the whole, you know, the atom bomb stuff, the bird cage and all that, the development of the that went on at Fort Campbell, and I mean, who knows what all kind of, you know, there was a whole lot of top secret stuff going on there. So that was kind of my theory on the dog man thing. That was probably something that, if it's real, that the government kind of created or whatever, and they were using that because LBL is Land Between the Lakes. We call it LBL, but is federal. It's all federal land. So that kind of seemed to me like maybe that's where they take and do their R&D testing on them, you know, because that's where
there's like a theory that the giant national parks were made by Roosevelt because of the Bigfoot. So that's not too far fetched to think LBL might have been roped off.
Yeah.
That is really nice up there.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it's beautiful country. But yeah, there's been a lot of weird on there too, though.
Sorry, I'm brainstorming here. In Fort Belvoir, Virginia, there's the Mount Vernon monster that they only saw for a few months. They got loose from the military base, and it like pushed a cop into a trash can.
Wow!
It was like a cryptid. One of my podcast guests seen it. His name's Glenn Jackson. Saw it when he was little. Like it would terrorize the area for like a couple of months, and then it was just gone. They think it came from a lab.
I wouldn't doubt it.
Up there at Fort Belvoir, it's all a swamp. It's just the same kind of land as the Land Between the Lakes.
Yeah,
it's a swamp with a little high place.
Yeah, well, you know, at one time, like, you know, it was all private property. It was all taken by eminent domain, so they could create that. There's a book out. A guy from Cadiz, Kentucky, wrote a book called "Between the Rivers," and it tells all about the creation of Land Between the Lakes. And there's a lot of animosity of the family that, you know, lost their land to that. So,
so it's not a natural lake.
No, they were both man. Lake Barkley and Kentucky Lake are both man-made.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I always thought it was like a natural area.
No, I mean,
I thought it was on the Ohio line too. I didn't realize it was right there.
No, it's Kentucky and Tennessee.
Oh, it's like right up the road.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, go over Tennessee to Grand Rivers, Kentucky.
Oh my gosh! No wonder I got a kayak buddy here who goes there all the time.
Yeah, it's a beautiful area. That's a little blue way for kayaking and all that, and camping, as much camping and hiking as you want.
Oh wow! I did not know it was that close. I never even looked into it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's huge. I mean, I forget how many thousands of acres it is, but it's a huge place.
I didn't realize it was, like you just said, federal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. At one time, run by the TVA, now it's controlled by the Forestry Service. So, and that's another controversy, that it was supposed to, if the TVA ever gave up control of it, it was written in that that the families were supposed to be able to buy back their family land that they lost in the eminent domain or whatever, and the government just kind of, like pretended that didn't happen and just kept, so.
They're good at that these days.
Mm-hmm.
It's like their thing. They finally tell us aliens are real. That's another.
Yeah.
That's a whole nother bag of worms there.
Yeah.
Why you care so much now?
Yeah. Everybody wanted to believe the government said it was true. Now they distrust that.
I was looking at TV like, really? Aliens? What do you mean aliens? I mean, like, why don't they just roll some bodies out and give us some footage? That's all we really want.
Yeah, pretty much.
This is incredible. I wonder if they have because I take my daughters to all the like within like a 4 or 5 hour radius to get to national parks and monuments to get the little you do this little course, you get a little ranger badge. I wonder if LBL has them. I bet they do.
I'm sure they do. There's two welcome stations. There's one, the south one is in Dover, Tennessee, and then the north welcome station is in Golden Pond, Kentucky, which isn't really a town, but it used to be. But on the Kentucky side, there's a north welcome station too. It's actually, I think, a little bit nicer than the south one. But yeah, you could probably get something like that there. They have a lot of youth programs and stuff. And there's a big planetarium and stuff there. It's nice.
Cool. But you said your buddy had was in a cabin up there, and it got attacked. What was the story on that? I remember it from when we discussed it.
Well, I mean, I was gonna go on this trip or whatever, but it had started snowing, and my wife didn't want to be home alone if it got real bad or whatever. So I kind of skipped out on the trip or whatever. But my 3 good friends went, and there's a cabin in LBL on the Tennessee side, and it's kind of like because people ride horses and stuff a lot through there, so it's kind of like one of the horse riding spots on the horse trail or whatever. But there's just an old cabin up there. It's no electricity or anything. That guy sister's friends with did a video on it. Elijah Henderson's his name, and he videoed the cabin and all that. But they went up there and camped out for the night, just like cooked dinner and stuff and just hung out. And they said that once they went to bed, about 3:00 in the morning, they had laid out sleeping bags and stuff on the floor. It's just like a little 1-room cabin. And they had laid out their stuff and went to bed or whatever. And then like around 3 a.m. or whatever, the big heavy wooden door, one of the front doors of the cabin just come crashing in on them.
Oh, like busted the door in? Busted it off?
Yes. Like hard. And this was a big heavy wooden door. And they said, it came crashing in on them. And they got up and were freaked out and looked around, and it was, like I said, it was snowing and stuff, and there were no footprints or anything like that around, no evidence, anybody, messing with them or whatever. And they said it was just kind of really weird, really creepy, uneasy feeling about it or whatever. And my other buddy said later on when we were talking about it or whatever, he said that he thought he had heard voices and stuff out through the night, like people talking or maybe like kids laughing, playing, or like he said he didn't know whether it was just his imagination or what, but he said it was a crazy night.
I bet. It sounds like almost like he heard the Bigfoot Sierra sounds.
Yeah.
Because it sounds like people talking, but they're not saying anything.
Yeah, that's what he said. It was like unintelligible. You couldn't make out what they were saying or whatever. And I think he said something I would have to double check. I mean, don't quote me on this one, but he said he thought he heard something that was like a barge going by, but that spot isn't really close to the river or anything. You wouldn't have been able to hear a barge from there, but I could be wrong on that, but I'm pretty sure he said that's one of the things he also mentioned. And there's like a big
like the foghorn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's like right where he's sleeping or whatever, like if you went straight out the back of that place, there's like an old creepy well that behind the place. So that's like
that's where they're hiding.
Yeah, the well of soul or whatever behind it.
Hey Greg, if you have any input, feel free to chime in. I'll put it up here. We got a celebrity in the chat, by the way. We got Ryan Paul Chimp Tremblay, who had the big dog man encounter out there in Arizona. I don't know if you've heard his story or not.
No, I haven't.
Yeah, he was kind of house sitting for a friend out in Arizona. He walked behind the house, 6 foot tall dog man, hyena head.
Wow.
Looked him in the eye. He said it looked like a big hyena.
Dang.
Yeah, that's the
Yeah.
wildest story. It's
Yeah.
just like, whoa.
One of the ones that I hope really isn't real, because I mean, I don't think I'd really. I would be terrified to see some kind of werewolf thing.
Yeah, and well, I can't say like there's no reports because I guess LBL is actually a big report of them killing somebody, but
Yeah, like supposedly the whole family. You know? And there's another YouTube channel called that Roger LBL. He's the dude who was supposedly the survivor of that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he
I hang out with D.A. Roberts a lot. I go to every once in a while on his show. He came on mine. He's a big dog man guy. He talks about that one. That's like his favorite. Said Land Between the Lakes, baffling. Makes you wonder. In my encounter, he had to wonder if the hyena type is some kind of prehistoric hyena. Lazarus taxon.
Huh.
Yeah.
But yeah, LBL, a lot of it used to be like homestead. I mean, they're all kind of old remains of like old homesteads and stuff there, and not like ancient. You know, I mean, this like whatever. I forget when LBL was actually created or whatever. But I mean, these were a lot of people's like vacation homes. You can look up the Hotel California in LBL, and it's like the remains of this guy. He was a barge captain, his vacation home or whatever, but now it's just like this concrete ruins with all kinds of spray paint stuff. We hiked up there and checked it out. It's really cool. And then
that's not haunted at all.
Yeah, it was weird. It had a weird vibe to it. I've never been to the Vampire Hotel. My buddy that was commenting on here, Greg, he's been to it. But it's like the remains of a house, and I supposedly, I don't know, there was a murder there, or a murderer hid out there or something. I don't remember the whole story on the Vampire Hotel, but
I've heard that story before. I know what you mentioned a murderer. I had to look that up.
Yeah, and like I think supposedly like some kids were doing like satanic rituals or something there after it happened.
Oh.
I don't know.
Well, of course. What's a fun place in the wood if a bunch of hippies don't show up and do a ritual?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I think Hotel California is good for that too.
They got a place down in Tuscaloosa, way out in the woods, or well, it's probably not in the woods now. The old mental asylum. They about like that. It's creepy as hell at night.
Right. And you know we're in right here in by the Bell Witch too. That's in Adams, Tennessee, Robertson.
Yeah.
Right here, you know, right on top of it too. And I've been down there to the Bell Witch Cave anyway. I've never really been to where the home site was or the cemetery. But
I've heard the cave was haunted, but the Bell Witch thing was kind of a farce.
Well, I don't know. I mean, there's a whole lot of evidence that the Bell Witch was real deal, but
like a real person.
But nothing really happened when all that was going on in the 1800s or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing really happened at that cave other than the kids, the Bell kids of the family. I think maybe some like friends or whatever were down there, and they used that cave as like cold storage for milk and meat and stuff. You know, it was like a natural spring house, basically. And they weren't supposed to be down there playing, and they were down there messing around. And one little boy got stuck in the mud, and I guess it was kind of like almost like quicksand mud or whatever, because it is a wet cave.
Yeah.
And he was stuck or whatever, and supposedly the witch pulled him out, got him out, saved his life, I guess, or whatever. And then, you know, kids ran back to the house or whatever, and then she appeared, or, you know, however she did her thing, and she, you know, ratted on the little boy and was like, yeah, he was down there messing around where he wasn't supposed to be, and blah, blah, and, you know, he got his butt tore up by his mom or whatever. You know, he got punished for misbehaving, and that's the only documented thing that ever happened in that cave. Now, when you go on them tours and stuff, it's all, you know, they say don't take a rock or don't take anything out of it, 'cause it's cursed and all that. They make it out like it was the most haunted thing ever. And that's, like I said, other than her saving the little boy. That's the only documented thing that ever happened that cave. But it's neat. I mean, it's fun thing to go and do, especially around Halloween and stuff.
Oh yeah, I bet it is. I like to go up there. I've been, skirted by it a dozen times. I never stopped in.
Yeah, it's neat. It's kind of off the beaten path or whatever. I mean, it's a little bit drive in the country, but it's worth it. It's pretty fun.
That's where that comedian Leanne Morgan's from.
Huh.
Adams, Kentucky.
Well, it's Tennessee. Was where.
Yeah, Tennessee. Shit, I know.
Yeah, but I mean, it's close. It's
I got Kentucky on the brain.
It's close to Guthrie, Kentucky. It's right on the Todd County line.
Ryan wants us to lock arms and march across the LBL and flush whatever it is out. What happens if that works though?
Well, as long as it's in the wintertime, because I'm gonna put the ticks and chiggers are about one of the most dangerous things in LBL. They will eat you alive in the summer.
Yeah, cottonmouth.
Yeah, that too. There's some swampy areas for sure.
I bet. Wendell said, "How do the hippies always find these places? They can smell it.
Yeah.
Anything that smells worse than them, they flock to." That's how, if a hippie can smell it, it's old.
That's right.
He said they ought to bring Ashers to LBL. Well, bring her out there. You can get there. And doesn't she live in Ohio? She can get there. It's not far. People from Ohio come down here all the time.
It's a cool. It's really neat for all kind of, there's all kind of stuff to do. There's an elk and bison prairie, you can drive through, and then there's another spot where you can just view the buffalo just from the trace road. So yeah, it's really cool.
So it's kind of like Cades Cove.
Not as crowded, pretty much wide open. There's really no, you can pretty much just do whatever you want to there, essentially.
Yeah. Yeah, Cades Cove is backed up 24/7.
Yeah, there's nothing like that. I mean, the elk and bison thing, there might be cars at a time there, but nothing like Cades Cove.
There you go. He said, a lot of folks say there's a Bigfoot and Dogman there, so if they are there, how are they hiding so well? Well, they can clip in and out. That's how. No one wants to admit that.
It's a lot of wild area. I mean, LBL, you might be able to find a paved road or whatever if you were lost down there in the woods or whatever, but that doesn't mean you're going to encounter anybody for a few days. I mean, it's some remote, rough country down through there. I mean, all the trace road or whatever that runs, the length of it, but there's a million little side roads and dirt roads that go back dead end or whatever back in hollers and, go down to the lake or creeks or whatever. And yeah, I mean, it's a huge place. It's a very wild place, honestly.
That's 50 miles. 40 or 50 miles from tip to tip.
Yeah, it's a good stretch. And then, like I said, all the little side roads and stuff. And there's all kind of cemeteries. Most of them are up on top of ridges and stuff that were family cemeteries, like I said, because they're all private land at one time. So they had to they got to keep those roads maintained so the families can go to those cemeteries or whatever. But I mean, a lot of them you need a 4-wheel drive to get to, because a lot of those are old cemeteries that they hauled caskets and stuff up there by mule and wagon because they were so hard to get to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, it's
everything on the map here is a cemetery.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a million of them.
That's
also,
crazy.
if somebody's wanting to go and go explore or look for Dogman or whatever, they do allow deer hunting and stuff like that in the winter. So keep that in mind, during the winter months or whatever, that people might be out there deer hunting or whatever. So
wear your orange.
Yep.
Don't wear a werewolf costume.
Yeah, exactly.
I like the little fun fact that it shows when they filmed Empire Strikes Back in the Pacific Northwest. They had Chewbacca wear an orange vest and be followed around. Somebody shot him.
That was right.
How would you like to shoot what you thought was Bigfoot? It's just Chewbacca.
I'm sure that's on a lot of redneck hunters' bucket list to tag Sasquatch.
Yeah, I meditate a lot that I would never do it, just so in case one comes around, I'll see it.
All right.
I would never shoot a Sasquatch. I kind of want to go see this kayak greenway up there now. Planning my next vacation in the middle of a podcast.
Yeah, there's a lot of cool campsites and stuff along that, along there too.
But that is nice. That's crazy. I didn't realize, like, literally didn't realize it was that close.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not far at all.
3 hours from me.
Yeah, once you got through Nashville or whatever, and then you come through Clarksville, and you're right there. So
I could veer through Adams.
yeah, you go
It's
that
right
way.
over there.
Yeah, yeah, you can make the whole. And Hopkinsville, go through the Kentucky
Oh yeah,
side.
that's right there too.
Yeah, you come across 6880 Bridge, and then you're in Cadiz, Kentucky, and then Hoptown's right there. So we're like the golden triangle of weird shit.
That's a t-shirt idea. The golden triangle of weird shit. One of my t-shirts is going to be barn owls don't particularly throw rocks. Because everybody hears the barn owls in the woods and it's Bigfoot, and all of a sudden you get rocks thrown at you.
Right.
That was one of the guys who was a researcher. He said, but I heard the barn owls, and the barn owls don't particularly ever throw rocks.
Huh.
Oh. Got Gavin Hawk, LBLB survivor in the house.
Yeah, he was at the cabin. He's one of the guys that when the door, the door almost hit him.
Oh, he was there with Greg.
Yes.
I thought this was the guy from the YouTube channel, the Roger. It's like, wow.
No, I don't know that guy personally. But no, Gavin was there with the door incident at the cabin.
So yeah, just type your encounter out in your opinion out in the chat, and I will read it. That sounds cool, because the fact is, especially the fact that you didn't see footsteps or footprints.
Yeah, that place is weird. I've been to it. Me and Gavin and Greg, which we all, the very first time we ever went to that place, I was with those guys. I was during COVID, and LBL was basically like shut down. You could just go do whatever. And we went up there one day and just hung out and checked it out. Yeah, I mean, it was a weird place that day, but they went up there and stayed the night during that snowstorm. And yeah, and then the door comes busting in on them at 3 a.m.
Isn't it weird that places like that closed during COVID, and the one place you should be is outside?
Yeah.
Don't go outside.
Pretty much. Yeah.
It's the dumbest shit.
And all the rangers were doing during that time were just like, they posted up like the boat ramps and stuff to make sure that nobody was putting a boat in there. But other than that, you could go do whatever down there. And I don't know. It was a strange time altogether, but
I remember the summer of 2021, and folks started getting restless, and anything you could do was full.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Big time. But I mean, I don't know. I never slowed. I kept on doing all the same stuff I always did.
And I never stopped working.
I
said somebody owes me about 2 years of staying home.
Yeah, I didn't either. I was, worked every day of it. But when we did get out and do stuff, there was really nice because there wasn't really a whole lot of people around. You could do pretty much whatever you wanted. No lines, no waiting, no traffic.
You walk in somewhere and cough real big, you got the whole place to yourself. Where are you going? Come back. I got real big into Randonautica over COVID. The random coordinate app finds anomalies in the. I don't know if you heard of it or not.
I hadn't. That sounds interesting.
Yeah, it's I tell the story every now and then on here. Probably more than I should, but like you put in just a range, usually about a mile for me, and it finds it hits all the servers around the world and finds the anomalies, and I don't know what it is. Anomalies in the coordinates. Kind of woo woo, to be honest, but you make an intention when you do it, and then it sends you to a random point, and you go to it, and it's supposed to lead you to your intention. Some people, one bunch of girls found some dead bodies.
Really?
Doing that shit. Yeah, found it on a boat ramp. Huh. My craziest one took me to a turtle in the middle of the woods. Like the pinpoint was in a clearing where a turtle was.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting.
And, yeah, it was wild. But then it got so popular because you could just get in your car and you didn't have to be around people, and
Yeah.
And people would do it like all the time. It'd be all they do would just go around Nautica, just drive around, get arrested for trespassing and stuff. But then the guy was getting like $200,000 server bills because the entire it was a free app. Entire world was just like downloading this stuff every 15 seconds. Now you got to get daily points. You get like 10 points a day. It's okay. Gavin is checking in on his LBL encounter. Remember, it was 2 or 3 in the morning. We were sleeping on the floor, and the door just came flying in, nearly landed on me. So it came off the hinges, or did it open real quick?
I mean, I think they said the hinges were kind of janky though, but yeah, I think it knocked off the hinges pretty much.
Okay, so it was like a free falling door. Okay, we all got up and looked outside and saw nothing, no tracks. That fresh snow. We went around the flashlight looking for anything, and there was nothing. Yeah, that's like classic Bigfoot cloaking behavior there. Scientifically proven that they do that, Yeah, it's like whenever you see a Bigfoot encounter, it's always like you track the tracks and all of a sudden it stops.
Huh.
Like where'd it go? It's the same thing.
Yeah, I told them guys that I kind of wish I had experienced it in a way, but I told them too. I said I'm glad I wasn't there because I like going camping, and I'd probably never go camping again if I probably would have been done.
That's not a peaceful experience.
Freaked me out just hearing about it. So.
Was it Gavin? Did you hear the sounds outside? Did it sound like those Sierra sounds? The Ron Moorhead?
No, it was actually our other friend, our other
Greg,
buddy, the one that heard that.
Our brother Daryl, our other brother Daryl.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, the Sierra sounds are wow, wow, wow. Joe Rogan said they sounded like somebody trying to speak Japanese.
Huh.
But yeah, they sound like a person talking, but you're like, what are they saying? Like you hear voices through a door.
Ron said it sounded like little kids, like giggling and laughing or whatever. But yeah, he said
there ain't no telling.
He said it was very creepy though.
Obviously, something was going down.
Yeah, I mean obviously something.
Yep, samurai chatter. Wah, wah, wah. Randy Bauer from out there at Minnesota said he heard the Sierra sounds in his backyard. He even did an impression of them, which was the best one I've heard.
I'll have to say on that. I'm not real familiar with that, so I'll have to dig it on.
Let me see if I can play them. I think I can play a little bit of them. It's just the reason they're called the Sierra sounds is because they're taken in Sierra Nevadas.
Yeah.
But I'll see if I can play it here. I'm listening to it in my other ear. So, hang on, I'll share it. Little audio visualness here. This is it. Ron Moorhead was the one that did it. Everybody, this is not my material. I don't own this. This is a Sierra sound. Can you hear it, Rebel?
Yeah.
Okay. Here we go.
You trying to talk to this?
Wop, wop, wop. Some of that is them doing that back to them.
Yeah.
But when it gets to the point, you'll hear it, and it sounds like somebody talking. Like, what are they saying? And I bet if you heard that outside, you're like, what the fuck? There it is. get popped for that, but you got the idea that
Yeah,
chatter in the middle.
Huh.
Imagine
Yeah,
being in the middle of the woods and hearing that shit. Woo.
yeah. I'll pass on that.
I'd like to hear it. I think if I ever get any kind of notoriety doing this, that's probably what I'll have to start doing. Even though I just like hearing the stories.
Yeah.
I think to have my own experience would be pretty wild.
Yeah, like I said, I've never really had too much of the Bigfoot or whatever kind of experiences or whatever. I mean, I've had the weird stuff happen to me and out in the woods or whatever, but I've nothing like that, no sightings or anything like that. But
are you a paranormal investigator?
yeah, I mean, nothing, professional or anything.
Okay.
Like I say, we're always, if we run into something weird or whatever out in the woods, like checking out abandoned houses and stuff like that. There's some kind of, legend or whatever to go check stuff out. I say, we got, like I mentioned, we got a lot of stuff like that around here. The Bell Witch, the East LBL, there's no shortage of that. The
Harlan, for the love of God.
Yeah, that too. That's not too far from here.
Nope.
The psychic Edward Casey, he's buried here in Hopkinsville too. So, there's a whole lot of stuff around here. Leaping prophet, whatever. So yeah, he's buried. He was from Hopkinsville, and then he moved off and did all that stuff. But he's buried in the cemetery here in Hopkinsville. A lot of people go to his grave and claim they see stuff going on at night, orbs, stuff like that. So yeah, there's no shortage of it around here.
The weird triangle, weird shit.
Yeah, pretty much.
Write that down.
Pretty much.
So what do you find when you're doing your archaeology thing? What do you find out there?
On the Spring Creek thing, on that site is the main place that I have permission to go or whatever. I'm working on some places up here in Kentucky too, but just there was an archaic campsite there. There's nothing. It's kind of weird too because there's no evidence of any later time period Indians being there after the archaic time period, and it's weird because it's probably the best freshwater source in the area. So it's kind of weird that the later cultures or whatever wouldn't have used that. The only thing that I could think of that, why maybe they hunted and fished it out. Maybe there wasn't a lot of game animals left after however many thousand years or whatever. But it's just kind of weird that no later Indians were there after the archaic period.
How long ago was that?
Well, I mean,
10,000?
Yeah, 8 to 10, I'd say. Some people
should know this because we got a cave that old here. I can't think of how old it was.
Yeah, we have Dunbar in Clarksville is a Tennessee state park, and there's some of the oldest petroglyph cave paintings in the back of it. And there's some, I don't know. I mean, I've never heard anybody talk about it, but I don't know if you're familiar with Graham Hancock and the younger Dryas theory, comet and all that.
Well, ancient technology and ancient civilization.
Exactly, yeah, with Atlantis and all that.
I love that show.
One of the cave paintings in Dunbar Cave, and it's way in the back, in the like pitch black of the cave. It was drawn in like charcoal, and it's a sunburst looking design. And they say that supposedly they carbon dated it or whatever and said that it was like the woodland Indian time period, which is kind of, as far as all that stuff goes, fairly recent.
Yeah, that's close.
They said that that's who made those or whatever. But I've always had the theory that why would you go all the way back into that cave in the pitch black and draw that what looks like to me a comet? Like who was going to see that? Like, why would you go to all that trouble to do that? And I've always kind of had the theory that maybe those cave paintings or whatever are way older than what they're claiming, and that was their way of making a written record of what was going on. That they were sheltering in place in the back of that cave when that comet hit.
Is that this here?
Yes. exactly. That's it.
It is kind of crazy.
And it is way back in there. I mean, that isn't like at the mouth of the cave or whatever. I mean, you got to go way back in Dunbar Cave. So there was no sunlight or anything hitting that. They did that by torchlight or whatever. And why would you?
They were back there.
Yeah,
committed.
I ain't been back there since I was a little kid because a lot of times they have to close because of the bats. You know, the white nose disease or whatever. A lot of times they don't let people do the cave tours. So it's been since I was a little kid since I was in there. But I remember how far of a walk and, you know, on the little tour or that you had to go way back in there to see that stuff. So that
they don't let you touch it, do you? Obviously.
No. I mean, that some of that crap where it's scratched on and, you know, you can see like people's names or whatever. That was all done, you know, probably in like the
1860.
Yeah. That was way before, because that cave was privately owned at one time by Roy Acuff, the country music guy. They used to do like dances and stuff there. But yeah, I mean those petroglyphs are crazy. And like I said, I mean, why do you go all the way back in the pitch black in the way back of that cave and draw that? Like, it doesn't make any sense. So like I said, I've always had the theory. I'd love to. I don't know if Graham Hancock even knows about that stuff, but I would love to have that talk with him and go with him and let him look at that stuff. Because to me, I mean, that's, like I said, I mean, to me, that's somebody's written record of what happened. You know, that they were back there sheltering in place of this crazy comet hitting Earth or whatever, and they're back there in that cave and, you know, made a record of it.
I bet they could see it like coming close.
Yeah.
And that's what you're saying is Graham Hancock's whole thing is the comet 12,000 years ago.
Right. And yeah, and there's some crazy with the Grand Canyon, everything. I mean, there's like all sorts of evidence.
And that the flood in the Pacific Northwest with the ripples.
Yeah.
That's his thing too. Is this still the same cave? It is. Dunbar Cave. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not super familiar with like all the stuff that's in there or whatever. But the comet, the sunburst looking thing, is what always made me. After I, you know, started watching, you know, what Graham Hancock said on Joe Rogan, stuff like that. You know, I was like, well, damn. You know what? That puts me in the mind that somebody was, you know, holed up back in there, you know, taking shelter, and they wrote it down the best they could, you know, to let somebody know what happened.
There it is. I like the little design in the middle.
Yeah, I don't know. That's where I think they claim that's a woodland, that's a woodland Indian time period, you know, symbol or whatever. But I don't know. I mean, who's to say that the woodland Indians didn't get that from an earlier culture? You know, because there's no written record of any of this.
Yeah, I mean they're finding the shit too.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't know.
Yeah, I mean they were picking up arrowheads just like we are now, you know. I mean, they were picking up reusing stuff, you know, that they found or whatever. And, you know, then they had the oral history or whatever, those passed down from generation to generation or whatever. But
you ever find any Clovis stuff like the abandoned Clovis, the big long ones?
I've never found anything like that. I found what I think were Clovis period tools like scrapers and a graver that some people say they use it as like kind of like a drill or whatever, but some people also use them as tattoo needles. But I would think that they probably were using bone for that. But I've got some stuff that I found, no big points like that or anything, but I found some what I think are Clovis tools from the Spring Creek site.
You know, there's the cave by me. It's called Russell Cave. You've heard of it?
Yeah,
I'm sure. It's in my home county, about 10 miles from where I grew up. They have their own point that came from there, the Russell Cave point.
Yeah,
looks a lot like that. Kinda.
Yeah,
it's got that real accented hole in the bottom.
A lot of them are named, you know, after the place they're found or whatever. There's actually a kind of a church called they call Hopkinsville chert they mined or whatever around here that's exclusive to this area. And Dover, where LBL is, there's Dover chert too. It's really nice. Hopkinsville chert to me is not real nice looking material, but that Dover stuff's really pretty.
Have they found it real far away or something?
Yeah, they found stuff I know in the Smoky Mountains they found an obsidian point that was obviously traded from, way out west. Because we don't have any obsidian. We don't have any obsidian around here, but they found an obsidian point in the Smoky Mountains, so that came from, somewhere west of the Rockies.
See, that's the kind of thing that happens that gets me talking all damn night. Like how did they get that? Well, how they got it, but like imagine the trade.
Oh yeah,
and the party that had to go get it.
Well, they said that the rivers and stuff were the interstates of the day. They were, they would take the rivers and stuff from one part of the country or whatever to the other, and as they met people along the way, if they were friendly enough or whatever, they could do business. Or maybe just, kill them and take their stuff. Maybe is how they ended up with it.
That too.
Yeah, I don't think everything was 100% friendly, but yeah, there's some crazy stuff like the big mound complex around St. Louis. They found a lot of crazy stuff there. They found, shark teeth and stuff from the Gulf of Mexico, and they found basically like a war club or whatever that looked like something that was made like in the Pacific Islands. So, I mean, where maybe they come up with that idea on their own, but to me, it's kind of seemed like that was something that they had seen somebody else had, from way out in the Pacific, that made their way into the Gulf of Mexico and on up that area or whatever. So, yeah, there's a lot of wild stuff.
You pull it back, look at the pyramids. Where'd they get that idea?
Yeah, exactly. Pyramids all over the world. That structure is everywhere, to include whether or not they want to admit it or not in Antarctica and everywhere else. And they don't ever want to mention any kind of like South American contact with North America as far as the Indians, the Maya and Aztecs and all that. Like somebody will say like, wow, we found this and it looks pre-Columbian, but we found it, in Missouri or whatever.
Yeah, Arkansas.
They'll quickly just, oh no, that's impossible.
But, first of all, they could walk here.
Yeah, exactly.
That's not that impossible.
They don't want to recognize any kind of pre-Columbian stuff.
They had 20,000 years to do it.
Yeah. I don't know. The whole archaeology thing is crazy. There's a lot of gatekeeping with that. Clovis first thing. That's a whole. They stuck to that forever, and then that was quickly disproven, and then they just.
That's a Graham Hancock buzzword. There's Clovis first. That pisses him off.
Oh yeah, because I mean, some people still stick to that. You'll still run across some old dudes that will stick to that, and they're like, it's been busted 1,000,000 times over. How much more proof do you need? But I don't know. That's the thing about archaeology. Don't nobody want to be proven wrong. All them dudes that were doing it before the internet, they don't want to hear anything other than what they know or what they say or whatever. But there's a lot of crazy stuff going on. I don't know how much you are familiar with the Boneyard in Alaska. There's a lot of crazy stuff going on with that.
I am over my head in that.
Yeah,
I know all about that.
Bones that look like they were cut with the bandsaw. That is insane.
Those things are insane. That dude's been ruining all kinds of theories with that.
Oh yeah, with the
feathers and the people.
Yeah, the steppe bison, especially because that was the main thing. They kept steppe bison weren't even in that area, and he has like a truckload of steppe bisons.
Yeah. He's got them lined up down our hallway.
Yeah,
all it is. He told Joe Rogan, "I'll bring his steppe bison skull."
But those bones that look like they were cut on a meat saw, that's the craziest thing I ever seen. Like, if all the stuff I've ever seen on the internet, that's the craziest thing I've ever seen. And like a lot of people, I don't even think realize the magnitude of what they were looking at. Because like I said, I'm always out, whatever, metal detecting, looking for arrowheads, whatever. And they always say that if you find a big bone to look at it, and if it's cut clean like that, it was a beef or a pork bone cut in a butcher shop. It's not human. And that's exactly how those bones look. but they were buried under 60 foot
Yeah.
of frost, you know.
They're in the tundra.
Yeah. So who had the bandsaw back then is the question.
I'd like to know what happened to make that area just
Yeah,
so
that
concentrated.
like
That 5 acres little area.
full 5 acre area that's that full. It's like a mass,
It's like a grave.
a kill site, whatever you want to call it. But there's a lot of stuff like that. You know, they find those prehistoric, the dinosaur that, you know, kind of leads to a global flood or whatever, that all that stuff's like piled up that shouldn't have been. You know, there's a lot of stuff out west like that. And
Especially
that's
in Montana. That's all the
Yeah.
Montana sites are.
yeah, they don't like talking about that either. So
I don't know why you'd be so arrogant to not want something cool to happen in your field.
I don't know. I really don't understand it.
That's why I don't like the guys that get their ego attached to their jobs. That means they can't change.
That's why they hate Graham Hancock, because they call him a quack and all this stuff, like archaeology, whatever, blah blah blah. And that dude is like, there's no denying that dude's like just brilliant. You know, I mean, how are you going to sit there and say he's some kind of off the wall crackpot or whatever? And I mean, you only got to listen to him talk for a couple of minutes. I mean, the guy's brilliant. I don't know. I don't get it.
I'll hurt myself to listen to his episodes.
Yeah,
when
I've got a
he's
bunch
on Rogan.
of books. I just trying to find the time to read them all, like the Magicians of the Gods and all that. I've got a bunch of his books. I need to finish reading or whatever. But yeah, he's got some real interesting.
He's the pre-Clovis guy with the what's his show called? The Dynasty on Netflix.
Yeah,
I've watched it.
Ancient Apocalypse.
Yeah, Ancient Apocalypse.
Yeah,
and Randall Carlson's thing. What is Randall Carlson's thing? It's similar.
Yeah, I can't remember the name of his.
I'm just thinking, what is his stick? I mean, what is his? Like the same thing, but like adjacent.
Yeah, I mean,
the gap between archaic systems and knowledge.
They're on the same page for sure, but I can't remember the name of his thing.
But he's all about lost technologies in Atlantis and stuff.
Well, yeah, Graham's thing is, on that too, that the Clovis, the whole Clovis theory was that's where things started. Graham's thing is Clovis was where things restarted. That they got knocked back to the Stone Age. That wasn't the creation of anything. That was just like the rebirth of.
It's when there's like 10,000 people left in the world.
Yeah. And that, and those artifacts of the Clovis, the older the stuff is, the more finely made it is. The newer stuff is kind of crude compared to that. So you could tell that, whoever was making that, and there was a lot of technology to it too. The whole atlatl thing, there's like a whole lot of engineering to that about, throwing spears or whatever, like how they figure all that out,
The atlatl thing is brilliant.
Yeah.
Even though it's not accurate. It's accurate up to 5%, but you get 50 dudes, and that must be just like the Dothraki on Game of Thrones.
Oh yeah.
They have at Russell Cave, they have an atlatl course.
Really?
Yeah, and the guide, last time I went up there, it was like 170 degrees. I know it's hard for you to imagine that, but around here, but he had he had his fake deer set up, and I took the girls up there, and he was showing them how it was 5%. He would do it, and sure enough, about one out of every 10 or 15, he'd nail it.
Right.
But he said, I'm like, imagine 20 or 30 dudes just with 6 or 8 of those.
Yeah, you also got to think about too that a mammoth or something's a way bigger target.
Yeah, that's a barn.
Yeah.
Yeah, mammoth is basically throwing it at a shed.
Yeah, exactly.
It's something.
But yeah, it's just crazy, the engineering, the aerodynamics and stuff like that, like even putting fletching on an arrow and stuff like that. Like how does somebody, especially, these supposed primitive people or whatever, how did that happen? How does that just naturally occur,
Makes you wonder who saw what to think about it.
Yeah. Well, they talk about the stoned ape theory. That the
Yeah,
hallucinogenic mushrooms, awakened humanity's mind.
I'm okay with it.
Yeah. I mean, you never know.
I'm okay with all that stuff. I just wish something would come out. My favorite one, it's probably not true, but the Joe Rogan thing about how the whole Bible is just a code word for people doing mushrooms. That's what the whole Bible is about. Is just like a kind of an Anne Frank version of just how they talked about doing mushrooms and all their trips and stuff.
Yeah, I mean hallucinogenic, like especially like the Western Indians and stuff, the Hopi and stuff like they were doing
Mhm.
peyote and stuff like that. That was a part of a lot of their going to the spirit world.
Aren't they mapping that out? They're doing like that one group is mapping out the world. Where do they do ayahuasca?
Yeah, there's
Yeah,
that's
they're going deeper into it.
and it's crazy too that people who do like DMT and stuff like that, they all have the same experience. The when you break through and the reptilians and the little elves and stuff like that, like
Hmm.
all these people that have had no contact with each other all kind of tell the same story when they reach that
Yep.
state of consciousness.
That's what got me on the Bigfoot things. I just wanted to hear stories on this show and maybe listen for similarities, and they happen like one right after another.
Yeah,
67-year-old guys that can't work a flip phone telling me the same story.
right.
And I'm like, what is this real? It hit me. I'm like, well, daggum, it's not just fake.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot, and you got to look back, like way back, like the Eight Canyon thing. I mean, for old like
Hmm.
California gold rush miners or whatever that told that story. I mean, it wasn't like they heard about Bigfoot on the internet or whatever. They were talking about these 8 men
Yeah.
boulders down on their cabin or whatever.
They weren't watching Bobo Fay
Yeah, yeah, that.
fighting Bigfoot. I just realized I didn't know if that was his name or not. I'm just making it up. Bobo
Yeah,
James, yeah,
yeah.
James Bobo Fay.
A fat money maker guy. Yeah,
Yeah. See, that's who I don't want to become.
yeah.
Don't.
Like that's you know. I want to hear like what you're talking about the old dude that saw something when he was a kid. That's
Oh yeah,
those
I've had two of
I want
those.
to hear about.
They have them. People have them inhabitant now, just like an old farm out in the country. If they see it, the chickens will get stolen.
Mm-hmm.
They'll hear the whoops, and they'll get their like they'll lose time when they're in the woods,
Yeah,
and they'll see them, and they'll see them in a glance, and all of a sudden they'll be lost.
yeah. That's a reoccurring thing too. The time
Hmm.
loss.
And if you get a bad headache, they're messing with you there. And get, I had a guy from Colorado say, if you get in there and get a headache or start feeling dread, just get the hell out,
Yeah,
because that means they're too close and they don't want to take drastic measures.
yeah. I've heard about a lot about that in the Smoky Mountains. I've heard people talk about that. And then there's another state park here in Tennessee, the Frozen Head State Park, and there's a lot of talk about stuff like that, about on some of the trails or whatever. People have talked about like the overwhelming dread for no reason, and the
Oh
headache
yeah,
like that. So
seen signs for that 1,000 times. Never been there.
yeah, it's a cool place. We've camped out there before.
Frozen Head. Let me look at that. Where's that at?
It's on the Cumberland Plateau.
Oh, so it's over here by me then. It's got to be.
Yeah, it's off Interstate 40.
Oh, oh yeah.
I think Wartburg, Tennessee, is the closest town.
I grew up 3 miles from the bottom of the base of the Cumberland Plateau.
Huh.
Let's see. I love the pauses when I'm looking at stuff. I forget I'm doing a show.
There's
Frozen Head State Park.
the old like primitive living town, the Rugby. It's supposed to be haunted too, I think. If I'm not mistaken, I think there's some kind of thing about Rugby being like one of the most haunted towns in America or whatever.
Tennessee?
Mm-hmm. It's right there in that same area. It's on the plateau.
Okay, so it's way up there. Frozen Head. I got invited to go to a place that's really, supposedly really inhabited with Bigfoot in Granger County, Washburn.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not far either. This is just to the left of Knoxville. They're to the right.
Yeah. It's some rugged country. It's it's foothills, but it's some rough country.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very, very remote.
Hell, just walking around the University of Tennessee is rough.
Yeah.
It's up and down.
Yeah.
My God.
For sure.
Damn card. I got stairways just randomly placed around there on campus.
Mm-hmm.
I go up there from time to time. Not a big fan of the old Vols, but I do go to the Knoxville a lot for stuff.
Yeah.
See how far away from Huntsville, Tennessee is Frozen Head. It can't be far. It's not far at all. It's just up. It's up at little Highway 27.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever heard of the historic Scott County Jail. They got up there in Huntsville. It looks like a little castle, but it's a real haunted jail. These two women run it.
Huh.
And they do an escape room and an overnight investigation. It is intense. And I had her on here. I've recorded the show with her, and just so happens every time I did like a recorded show for about a month and a half, it was always the best show I did. Like History Channel level good, and I had to save it. I think I'm unloading those suckers in October though.
Nice. Yeah, I'll have to check that out. Normally, if we get
picture.
to Port Alabama, we're on the way to Florida, and my wife's in a hurry to get to the beach. So
this is north of Knoxville.
Oh, okay.
Huntsville, Tennessee.
Oh, okay. Okay. I thought you were talking about Huntsville, Alabama. Okay.
Yeah, it was weird because everybody on the podcast that night was from a different Huntsville.
Huh.
Everybody's like, "Well, I'm in Huntsville too." There it is.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh man, I never even heard of that. That's crazy.
When you're over in Lynchburg, they have a little jail tour, kind of like that.
I've been to that. I've been all over Lynchburg, Tullahoma, and all that. But
you wasn't far from me then. That right there is she's a biker Melanie, I think is her name. I might be butchering it, but she's one of the owners.
Huh. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
That is neat.
I went to Lynchburg by myself because the kids were at my parents' one time, and not too long ago, and it was so hot, and I'm walking by that jail, like I really want to go in and like spark up a conversation and tell her what I kind of do for fun. Tell them what I do for fun, but then I'm like, I'm just ready to go.
Huh.
I had eaten at Buc-ee's and I was full.
I agree.
I went to the Buc-ee's in Athens, Alabama, and made a loop through the country over to Lynchburg because I live just south of Lynchburg, about 45 minutes.
Yeah. Huh. Yeah, that's cool. I'll have to check that out.
It's not far from where you're at, honestly.
No, not at all. Yeah, and I'm surprised I've never even heard of that. That's interesting.
What's wild is one of the owners is a twin, Chris Sumner, and it's creepy to see them together. I'm like, does that draw any paranormal activity? She goes, oh yeah.
Yeah, they're twins. They have a connection. I got a couple twin nephews. It's weird the bond they got.
She said it's the ghosts get to going nuts when they get around because of the energy that makes them stir up.
Huh.
All right. Well, we can go ahead and try to wrap it up here. I think we've had a good talk. I really don't want. That's the thing about doing these things virtually is you can't just do like y'all don't hurry off. What you hurry? We can continue the conversation on the porch, then by the car, then in your window.
Oh yeah, yeah.
What y'all's hurry?
That's the Southern way.
Yeah, y'all don't hurry off. I was always when that happened when I was little. I'm like, they need to leave, Mom. I gotta poop.
Yeah,
I gotta go. I never understood it, but I'm gonna get Gavin and Greg on, and maybe you too.
Okay, yeah.
And just get contact. Also, dude from Ozarks.
Yeah, I'll give you his information. His name's Chris. But yeah, he tell that story about what went on in the Ozarks, man. That would make a good episode because that dude is a heck of a storyteller.
What was his name?
Chris Davis.
Davis. Okay. It cut off right when you said that. Ozarks. Okay. It's also the name of the guy that ran the kick six backs against Alabama, so I'll bring that up. Not a big fan of that. Even though he stepped out, Chris Davis stepped out. Play didn't count.
I hear you.
All right, Rebel. Thanks for being on. This is really good.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Anytime. I would do it again.
And we went to lunch today and had a bunch of pizza. And my friend that worked and went with me sent me a text that said how he went home and took a nap. I'm like, dude, I forgot this podcast was going to happen until about 20 minutes prior to it because of that pizza.
Oh, I know. I went all day, and it was like at the end, I was fixing to clock out at work, and I was like, oh man, I got to go. Because I was thinking about doing some yard work this afternoon. I was like, no, I'm going to skip that till tomorrow because I got the pot.
I remember, like, I know I have it all day in my mind, but like we got off work and I'm just like,
yeah. I drew a blank on it too, like pretty much all day.
Yeah, but I think it worked out though. I think it really covered the bases.
Yeah, for sure. And like I said, I mean, we can talk about there's all kind of stuff around here that, you know, if you then or whatever, I'll tell you to the best of my ability or whatever. But yeah.
I think I'm about to buy me a car with better gas mileage. Right now I have a Tundra. I don't want to get rid of it, but maybe buy a second one.
I feel you on that. I downgraded to a Tacoma for gas mileage. So
yeah, I'm looking at like getting a second vehicle like an Impreza or a Corolla or something.
Yeah,
something I can get for about $20,000, maybe. I don't know. I just need to be able to go like 500 miles and not spend $7,000.
But yeah, if you want to, you know, come down and roll it for you, big up, whatever, and
yeah.
You know, camp out at meet up at LBL or something, you know.
Everywhere in the South is down there.
Yeah, exactly. But
I'm gonna come down there and whoop on man's ass. Is what I'm gonna do.
If you want to come check out LBL or whatever, my buddy Greg in the chat there, he's a pretty good LBL tour guide. He could show you all kind of stuff. He's way more knowledgeable than I am of the place. But yeah, there's all kind of cool stuff to check out.
He's got that Leonard Skinner last name too, which wins. Wins. Zeke Van Zandt, got to talk to it. Place to mention. All right, man. Yeah, I'll get Rebel here to give me everybody's info, and we'll schedule a panel.
Okay.
In the meantime, thanks everyone for watching. Please subscribe. I want to do this for a living. I've got merch, but the link's broke, so don't buy merch just yet because I'll have to refund your money again. I'm tired. I had to refund $50 worth. All right, everybody. Thanks for watching. Thanks, Rebel.
All right.
Watch out for goblins near the bourbon.